Hi there, it is Deb and Beck with our YouTube show. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good evening.
So we are super duper duper excited at the moment, as always. You know, we're always super
At the
duper
moment,
duper,
as though we're not always excited about something.
Absolutely. We're really, really excited at the moment about our fantastic offer that we have got on Relationship School. So if you are not already in Relationship School, if you didn't take part the first time we did it, why not?
You missed out.
But for whatever reason, if you didn't and you are at all interested, now is the moment to join us, because we have got a really, really great offer on at the moment. And it is a sales thing. We do want to make money. We do want to pay our bills. We do want to pay our, we do
like
want
eating food.
We do. So absolutely, we would love you to buy Relationship School, and it is absolutely about that. But genuinely, we have talked about what we are doing, where our business is going moving forward, and we will not be offering Relationship School at these prices ever again. We are moving forward with it, and it's just going to be, we're putting more and more time and energy into it. We're doing great things with it, and it's going to keep getting better and better. And if you want to be in and have full access to Relationship School for life, and you want it at a great price, now is the moment to act. So yeah, do it. I'll put the link below. Go and do it.
Yeah, so Relationship School is now at £150 for the next couple of hours. As you're watching this offer ends at midnight tonight. So go and do that. And in order to do that, if you go to the website, daretobeYou.co.uk, Deb will put the link below.
I will.
Go to the Relationship School page. And when you go to buy Relationship School, if you put in the code YES in capital letters, and we'll put that below as well. So
yeah, I will put all the information below.
Yeah.
And if you have any problems, just send us a message. If you're struggling with anything and you can't get it and you want to, just send us a message. But that code, the yes code, will run out on midnight on the 1st of July.
Yeah, in a couple of hours, so get going. Yeah. And if you're maybe not quite ready for Relationship School and you want to have a look at something else with us first, we've also got our 30-day self-love program. That's an online course and it starts on Monday. So for 30 days, you'll get an email every day from us talking about the topic of self-love. It'll have a little video of us
every day,
just sharing every day
us
for 30
in your
days.
Inbox every day.
Oh, who could want more? And that's available on our website too. If you want to go and sign up for that, I think it's daretobeYou.co.uk/self-love. And again, we'll make sure the link's below. So if you want to join in that, that's £60. We would absolutely love to see you on that program. That's going to be an amazing 30 days.
So let's dive into
let's
today. So every week, Beck and I kind of talk about what it is we've been living and learning this week. And for me, this week, something that I really, really enjoyed. I was watching a film called Unbroken. And there's 2 films. There's Unbroken and I think it's Unbroken 2 or something like this. And I watched the first one a while back, and it is about a man who won the Olympics. Won in his category. Won a medal. He was running in the Olympics, and this was before World War II, so something like 1936. He won the Olympics. He was an amazing runner, an amazing athlete, and then when war broke out, he was an Italian man and who lived in America. So when America came into the war, he had his whole war story. He was in an airplane, possibly a pilot. I can't remember because that was the first film that I watched a little while ago. But his plane came down anyway, and he found himself on the sea in a raft, and he survived all sorts of amazing, all sorts of things happened to him, and he survived, and he ended up in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and he was tortured, very, very badly tortured. And then the second film that I just watched the other day was the story of him, when he got back into to Civvy Street, when he got back into his ordinary life when the war had finished and he came home, and how he struggled with that. He'd been through goodness knows what during the war, and he'd found that inner resilience, that inner diamond that we talk about during the war. And then he came home and found life getting back to normal and really, really struggled. And it was the story of how he found God and that changed everything. And he became he did amazing things. He made camps for young boys to teach them, to help them have purpose in life, to help them do good things in the world. And it was an amazing story. It was a beautiful, and it reminded me of the people that I have seen that come across the understanding that Beck and I share. You know, when we're in that lost place, and for whatever reason we get there, whatever happens to us or doesn't happen to us, or whatever it is, how we get there, that moment when we see something, that moment when a light bulb goes on and we see, this is down to us, in as much we show up and take responsibility whilst knowing we're not responsible. And what amazing things can happen to us when we do that.
Yeah, it's very much points, doesn't it, to what we're sharing here we're not teaching you something you don't already know. We're guiding you to something that's already within you. And stories like that, I mean, you know, that guy didn't have a session with me and Deb, you know, he hadn't watched one of our YouTube shows you know, but because what we're pointing to here and what we're talking about here is a fundamental truth within every human being. We have that capacity. He kind of uncovered that without, you know, because that's already there. He didn't kind of come into the conversation that we kind of have each week, but he knew that for himself. He found that in himself, his own route. And that's hugely like what I noticed. My kind of living and learning kind of fits with that it's a really silly example, and yet it's a perfect example. There was something happening for me last night when I lay down to go to sleep. I've got a little basket in my room, like a what do you call them, like a wicker basket style thing. I have a couple of bits and pieces in, and if you've ever heard wicker baskets, they make quite a weird noise if they kind of just move, or and I don't know if it was, I was in bed, so I was nowhere near it, so I assume it was some sort of heat or something that they expand or contract. But I'm lying in bed and I'm sort of trying to get to sleep, and I'm quite tired, and I've had a bit, you know, I've had quite a busy day yesterday.
Have quite a busy day yesterday.
So I'm lying in bed and this basket is making this really funny noise, and I can only presume it was some sort of heat contraction thing.
They do expand.
But immediately in my mind, I've built up a story. There's either a giant spider living in it, or a mouse, or a bird's got trapped. It's come in my window during the day. So my head immediately does this really wacky story about why this basket is making a little bit of a squeaky noise. And I'm lying in bed thinking, if it's a spider, it's got to be pretty big to be making that noise. I don't even want to know. I'm just going to pretend it's not happening. It's still happening. It's still happening. The noise is still happening. It must be a mouse or something. I don't know how a mouse has got in my bedroom, but it must be a mouse, because what else could make that? And I'm lying there for quite a while, and I do all of this. Just think about something else. Count to 100. Roll over the other way in bed. You know, and my head is just going and going and going and going. And this is happening probably only in the grand scheme of things for a couple of actual minutes. But then something in me just says, wait for wisdom. And immediately my mind goes quiet, and I lie there and think, just pick the basket up and put it in the bathroom for the night. And then we can just lie down and go to sleep. And it was one of that, exactly like, you know, that it's funny because it's ridiculous in a way, but that moment is a prime example of that inner resilience and that inner wisdom that we all have.
The finding God moment, if that's how.
And whether it's an annoying basket that's having a hissy fit in your bedroom and kind of, or if it's as kind of seemingly big as being tortured in a prison of war camp, that same inner resilience and inner wisdom runs through us no matter what it is that's going on. And I really saw that last night in that moment. My head was going, and then this quiet voice went, get out of bed and put the basket in the bathroom, and, you know, have a look in the morning and see if there's a creature in it. If you
was there anything in it when you looked in the
interestingly,
morning? Well, it had either come out of the basket, maybe the mouse found its way home, or the bird.
You know, and it was what I saw was happening was my mind was making up a raft of stories and a whole avoidance of the basket. And, you know, my bathroom's pretty big and it's across the corridor. It took a minute to get out of bed and move it and just go, that's it. For tonight, that's it, solved. And if there is something I need to deal with, I can do that in the morning, you know, in the light of day when I'm not trying to get to sleep. Because we are very good at knowing in a given moment what we need to do.
And I saw, when I was watching that film, I saw in that man, he had severe PTSD, incredibly severe PTSD. And he'd had it for a while. The film portrayed what was going on for him and how crazily he was dealing with life, you know, moment to moment, when he was walking down the street and having an experience of being back in the prisoner of war camp. And with this insight, with this moment that he saw something different, all of that disappeared. Changed. All of it. And that's, you know, I love the fact that that is available to all of us, whatever it is, whether it is a basket in the night making funny noises, or whether it is something as severe as the things that we can be diagnosed with, depression, anxiety, all of those, PTSD, all of those things. It is available to us to see something different in a split second. And I just think that is, I love that. I love being reminded of that. I just love it. So
precious.
It is incredibly precious. So this week, the question that we are going to answer is it a cop-out to be okay when other people are suffering? Great question.
It certainly is.
I mean, we are living in incredible times at the moment. You know, the pandemic and the lockdown and everything that's going on has become our new normal now. It's surprising how quickly we have adjusted to the strange things that have been going on, and the world is opening up again. But all sorts of things with all that craziness, and then there was a huge outcry with the Black Lives Matter and that terrible thing that happened to Mr. Floyd. It wasn't great, you know, all of these things. So there's all sorts of craziness going on in the wider world. And then I don't know about you, but most people have craziness, personal craziness that can go on. You know, can have family members that are struggling, friends, relatives that are struggling. And I know one of the things that used to really, really get to me was, how can I be okay when other people aren't okay? And a huge one for me was some of the people, going back a while, some of the people who weren't okay, it appeared that they weren't okay because of things I'd done. You know, it seemed to me that it was my fault that they weren't okay. You know, I'd been in a very unhealthy relationship, and my children had had a very unfortunate upbringing because of stuff I had done and stuff I hadn't done. So it looked to me that me finding my way in the world, me finding my feet, me blossoming and enjoying life, it didn't feel, there was definitely, it was something I had to come to terms with, being okay when people around me were not okay, and it even felt as if that was my fault. And whether it feels like that or whether it doesn't, I think it's a great question to explore and to look. And something that happened for me was, as I was becoming okay, as I was getting better, as I was coming to a place of feeling okay in myself and getting my life back together, I had a conversation with someone, and this person didn't feel that I should be feeling okay. They thought because of the things that I had done, I should not be feeling okay. That wasn't fair. It didn't seem fair that I was now okay and other people were suffering because of that. And I definitely had my moment of thinking, yeah, they're right. They're absolutely right. And what I should be doing is continuing to punish myself and not feel okay while there are other people in the world struggling and suffering. But what I began to see as I was exploring this conversation was that a little bit like, if we are at war, peace doesn't come from war. You know, we can't make other people happy by being miserable ourselves. When we put more misery into the world, we're not putting happiness into the world. And if we want to help other people and for other people to be happy, we need to be contributing to that. In the same way, if we want a peaceful, loving world, if we want to live in that place, then, you know, creating war, being against things, standing against things isn't the way forward. If we want love and peace in the world, we put love and peace into the world. We find a way to do that. And I really saw that me not being okay was just contributing to the not okayness of the world. It wasn't giving anything. It wasn't helping anyone that was struggling and suffering. And actually, from a place of being okay in myself, from there, I could really do something different.
Yeah, very much that. And I this week I wrote our blog, which if you haven't seen is available in our newsletter, and it will be out on the Facebook group this week. And I wrote it on the title, I Care Too Much, because one of the things we did last week, we did a 5-day self-love challenge, and one of the things that kind of came out of that was a lot of people sharing that they give a lot or they care a lot about other people, and it kind of bleeds them dry, or it leaves them feeling overburdened. And so I wrote a blog about that, because very much that was my experience too.
Mine too.
Yeah, that very much was like, I turned up in life believing that it was all on my shoulders, believing that the suffering I saw in other people or the world, I had to fix that, and that was on me. And it, exactly like Deb was just saying, it wasn't okay for me to be okay if other people were struggling or suffering or couldn't get out of bed, or whatever the scenario might be. And what I noticed happened for me when I was kind of in that mode of caring and giving from that place of believing it was on my shoulders, believing that I had to carry that, was that I very quickly burnt myself out. Yeah. I had nothing to give. I remember, totally. I was just more part of the problem now. You know, I was another person that needed looking after, that needed help and support. And I remember the job that I had at the time when this was happening, having kind of my to-do list. I have a to-do list on a spreadsheet because I quite like spreadsheets. And I would just spend all day moving things around on my spreadsheet and getting nothing done, because everything felt too big of a job for me. You know, what would be the simplest of things when I'm in a clear mindset would be just too big, too burdensome. So I just spent all day moving things around on a to-do list, whilst telling myself I had to fix the world, I had to help my boss, I had to, support our business, I had to bring in every penny of income we needed, and I couldn't go home until it was done. And if I did go home, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't connect with my friends. Everything was just such hard work, because it felt like it was all down to me. And what I really see now is that, is it a cop-out to be okay? No, it's the most help you can possibly give. Absolutely. It's absolutely the suffering in the world, the burdens that the world appears to carry are lifted when we come back to our okayness. Like, this works in completely the opposite way to how we set it up. And that was so freeing for me to see that. And it's absolutely an invitation, don't take our word for it. We say that often on this show. Don't take our word for it. No. Be curious about that. How is it possible that I am of more help if I understand that it doesn't have to be entirely on my shoulders?
It is like that story, isn't it? If somebody is drowning and you jump into the river to try and save them, actually, if you can stand on the firm bank and throw them a lifeline and pull them out, you're much more help in that way.
Getting in and drowning with them.
Absolutely. And it is very much, you are not helpful to a drowning man if you're drowning yourself. It can be very, very difficult sometimes to take care of yourself first, but that is so key. It is just absolutely. There was a saying, the Buddha was a very wise man because he saved one person, himself. And I think that is when we save ourselves, we save other people. Because we're just so much more help in the world from that place. And like Beck was saying, that is the biggest gift you can ever give.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. So our topic this week is building trust. A great relationship topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And again, for me, I think the words that are coming into my mind is start with you. Learn to trust yourself. Again, again and again, if you watch our show regularly, or you know us, or you work with us, this is all about pointing you back to you, finding what you have within you. Because I think way, way, way too many of us have no idea what amazingness lies within us. And I think when we try to trust the world outside, or we kind of think that we have to get our trust from other people, when we haven't had a realization about what is within us, when we haven't had a realization about ourselves, that is quite a difficult job. That is, again, one of those, it's the other way around. It's like trying to save someone who's drowning when you're drowning yourself. When you try to build trust with something outside in the world, other people, trust in something out here, it's really difficult when you haven't found that trust within yourself. So for me, building trust starts with getting to know who you are, looking to yourself, looking within yourself and seeing the amazing magnificence you have within you, and learning to know and trust yourself first.
Yeah, it really fascinates me, the whole trust, because what I notice, it's just something that kind of occurred to me, as some of you might know our background and our story. One of the places I really got into trouble was relationships, and fairly early on I had some big insights around kind of knowing myself and beginning to love and trust myself. And one of the things I saw quite early on was how quickly in a relationship we make up stories like, I need to be able to trust my partner.
Yeah.
And as soon as we say that, it's inbuilt that we're saying, if I can trust them, they'll do what I want. And vice versa. I don't trust my partner, and inbuilt in that is they're not doing what I want. But what fascinates me about that is, regardless of whether I trust my partner or not, that whether I trust my partner or not doesn't guarantee how they're going to behave. And equally, if I'm distrusting of them, it doesn't mean they're actually doing something that I wouldn't want them to. And we've made this connection between whether we choose to trust and whether they're doing what we think they should or not. And for me, I really saw that. What kind of came to me off the back of that was, trusting and building trust is actually nothing to do with my partner. And exactly like I loved that Deb started with, start with yourself, because that's it. That's the key here. When we look to what can we actually trust? That's the important bit here. And what we can actually trust is how life works. We can trust that no matter what it appears like, our feelings are only ever coming from our thinking. And we can trust that we are more than our thinking. There is something more about us here. And so for me, building trust is only ever building trust with those things. Trusting that that's how this happens. Every single time your experience comes from within you. Every single time you are more than just that experience in that moment. And the more we come back and trust that, in the same way that I trust that the sun's going to come up every day. Never once do I question that. Never once do I look out the window and go, oh, it's a grey day, I think the sun's gone forever. I trust that it's there. And the more I come round to trusting, I know that my experience is being created by thought in this moment. And I know there's more than that going on too. And that wisdom, that innate resilience we talked about a bit earlier too, kind of trusting that that's available. That's the place to build trust. And it's incredible from there, the impact that has on relationships in our lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when we talk about trusting our partner or trusting someone else in that way, and we make up those stories that they need to be a certain way for us to be okay, the thing to get curious around there to me is to see where your inner okayness comes from, to look back to you, and building trust with yourself is seeing, asking that question, am I okay even here, and looking to see where your inner diamond is, where your resilience is. Do you need this person to complete you? Do you need this person to act in a certain way? And what I trust my partner to do is follow his wisdom and do what makes sense to him. And I trust whatever he is doing in any given moment, that's okay with me, whatever that is. And I know sometimes if people whatever, and I'm not saying if he went out and was with someone else or left me or didn't want to be in this relationship anymore, or did any of those things, I'm not saying that I wouldn't be upset by it, but what I see and what I know is that my okayness does not come from him acting in a certain way. And it's just a fun game to get curious about that and begin to see that for yourself, because all of our relationships we have more love, more connection, more of the things we truly want from a relationship when we allow people to be themselves. You know, how good do you feel when somebody allows you to feel the way that you feel and do what makes sense to you to do? And even that begins with you, because I can look back to many, many times when I wouldn't allow myself to feel the way that I felt and be who I was. So definitely this trust and connection and love comes from within you, and it comes from you beginning to know who you are. And you see the difference, you get the benefits in those, like when we're talking about this, and it's not specific to subjects. It can be, yeah, but how can that help me when my partner cheats and I'm devastated, or my partner doesn't do something that I absolutely, you know, they're not on time to pick the children up from school, and they let me down every 5 minutes by doing this, and they're out with their friend. Any of these kinds of things, they look like very practical things, and what we talk about looks as if there's no connection there. But trust me, in the moment to moment living, as we understand this deeper truth of who we are, those really ordinary, normal, everyday things that happen in every household, up and down the land, you know, moment to moment, those things, we deal with those. Life just takes on a whole different perspective when we understand this and begin to build trust with ourselves first.
And you started that sentence by saying trust me, but I'm going to take it a step further and say don't actually, as we kind of said earlier, what Deb's just said there is go out and see for yourself.
Absolutely.
Actually, like, trust us that you should go out and look for yourselves. That's the bit to go and be curious about that, because it looks to me like there's a lot of stuff that people share about building trust in relationships and things like setting boundaries and those kinds of things. And to my mind, if that was working, we wouldn't still be looking for answers. So it's trust us that this is the place to look, and go out and look, go out and play with this, you know, in your relationships. Start with you and start to see if trusting your own wisdom, trusting how your experience is created, can change things, like Deb said, on the really practical day-to-day stuff.
That's where I really saw
go and play with it.
I've got a 22-year-old son, and when he was a teenager and he would come home from school, I really saw that knowing myself and trusting life was helpful in those moments, in those teenage crisis moments. And you know, we're both in relationships, and they have their ups and downs, but having this understanding, knowing ourselves, has really, really helped with that.
So go and see for yourselves if what we've shared in this show tonight, can you see something for yourself in that? Because that's where change happens.
And if it brings something up with you, feel free to, you know, be in touch with us. We love to hear from you. We love to connect. We love your comments. We would love to know what you're seeing or not seeing, what you agree with, what you disagree with. You know, be in touch, be vocal. We love it.
Please do. So next week, that brings our show nicely to a close. But next week, we're going to answer the question, am I okay even here? Which I think fits beautifully with some of what we've kind of touched on.
Slightly pointed towards that today,
so join us for that one. And the topic next week is the power of now. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a great week, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Thanks for being with us.
Bye.